All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Wednesday, July 9th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and this is All in Horns. Today's episode, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but Steve Sarkisian has gone on a little bit of a press tour, if you will, popping up on a couple of Longhorn podcasts, Third and Longhorn mainly, and going to talk about the interview that he had with those guys. Great interview, by the way. Highly recommend you go watch it if you have not done so already. Also was on Always College Football with Greg McElroy. Had a good interview there with him. Talked a lot about Arch Manning and the kind of where Arch fits in and his whole process of, where his development has been and kind of just the type of guy that he is. And so we're going to be talking about some of our takeaways about what Steve Sarkisian had mentioned, what he talked about in these interviews, and just how bad of recruits Jake and I would be if we had a college coach approach us when we were in high school and try to recruit us. Because hearing Coach Sark speak about the program and about what he wants out of his players, I couldn't, first of all, live up to that standard. But not only that, it would take me 2 seconds and I'd say, Coach, you can stop right there. I'm committed. I'll sign right here on the dotted line. Like the amount of passion, like the salesmanship that he has for the university, it's not a surprise to me by any means that he has the #1 recruiting class in the country.
No. And then, you'd commit. And then a year later, he'd be, encouraging you to go to the transfer portal for not meeting that standard.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
But it is fun. I feel like this is the most Sark has ever kind of done this, gone on a lot of different podcasts. And it's fun because you get to just hear him talk about football more, which if you're a fan of Texas or you're a fan of football and you don't just despise Texas, I think most people enjoy listening to Sark kind of talk about football and, kind of explain how his mind works with his thinking behind his offense, behind how he calls plays, behind his thought process on building the program to, what it's become under his tutelage. And it's been a lot of fun just to listen to him. And it just makes me that much more confident when I'm already fully confident in Sark being the correct person to lead the program at the University of Texas. And hopefully any fans that have doubts don't anymore. But at the same time, if you still have doubts after the last couple of years, I don't know what to tell you. The only thing that's left to do is win a national title. And we've seen that with pretty much any program that's not named Alabama, that sometimes that takes a little time. It took Jim Harbaugh time. It took Ryan Day time. It took Kirby Smart time. It still took Saban a little bit of time. It took Mac Brown time. All these coaches who won national championships, for the most part, it takes a little time to get over that last hump of winning a national title.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. And the fact that the Notre Dame head coach, I'm skipping on his name for whatever reason. Marcus Freeman. By the way, an excellent coach. Really love the guy. The fact that he was able to even play or coach in a national championship in his second year as the head coach, and for as young as he is, extremely impressive. And it doesn't just happen that way for a lot of people. And so, but yeah, speaking on Sark, Jake, his conversations with Third and Longhorn and his conversations with Greg McElroy about Arch Manning. And obviously, I think anytime he steps into an interview, people are asking him about Arch Manning, which Arch Manning, by the way, Jake, did you see he's 21? He can do shots at a bar. Did you see
I did. That quote by Arch was fantastic.
I am 21. I can do shots at a bar. What a weird thing to say, but yeah, I mean, he
relatable.
It's relatable. Yeah, you're 21. I can also do shots at a bar, but I typically choose to stay home as well. I do think the things that Sark said about Arch. One thing that I love about Sark is that he doesn't put Arch on a pedestal. I think if anything, he tries to downplay his popularity or just his. He tries to make Arch much more human because I think everybody makes him out to be this inhuman, football prophecy, and he might very well be that. But I think Sark does a really good job of keeping him grounded, and I think Arch is already a pretty grounded person as it is. But yeah, I love what Sark has to say about him in terms of his preparation and the way he handles himself, the way he carried himself about being the backup to Quinn, some of the hard conversations that he had to have with Arch while Quinn was because he said Arch wanted to start last year. He thought he was ready to go. And there were some definitely moments where he showed a little bit of frustration. And but the fact that he was as patient as he was and stuck with it and is now with the program. And I think his leadership and the players in the locker room have only gained more respect for him for having to go through that kind of like everybody else would have.
Yeah. And we've heard other quarterbacks around the country talk about, I think it was either Kate Klubnik or it was Nussmeier or maybe it's both of them, talked about their appreciation for guys like Kate Klubnik, for guys like Nussmeier, for guys who, like Arch, who have waited out the process into becoming a starter. In Kate Klubnik's case, he stuck it out at Clemson when things weren't going well and he was under the hot seat and was kind of in and out of the lineup. And then now he's become kind of the stud everyone expected and is kind of an example of, even if your 5-star guy isn't incredible his first year, if you ride it out with him for a little while, he'll maybe be pretty good. Crazy how that works. Not
what
everyone
a crazy
can
concept. Yeah.
Flip that switch and, be incredible right from the start of their career. Sometimes it takes little learning bumps. Like I'm sure there'll be some bumps along the road with Arch Manning next season, just like there were in his first start last year. It was rocky. But the waiting that out, trusting the process, and kind of proving everything he said about why he committed to Texas. I think Arch Manning has more than proved at this point before he's even become the full-time starter. And now we get to the fun. This is where the fun begins.
Yeah.
With Arch now taking over the reins and he is QB1. There is no doubt about that. And what a way to start it off, by the way, just to bring it up again at Ohio State week 1. Not many ways you could draw this up better, other than maybe playing against, like Tennessee or Ole Miss week 1, which obviously can't happen, but one of the teams that are in the bloodline.
Yeah.
It would be about the only way.
Yeah. No, I'm one thing that Coach Sark had mentioned in these interviews as well is kind of the process of the culture. And they even brought up Bo Davis in one of the interviews. And I believe it was the Greg McElroy interview of kind of this culture change. And it kind of started with Bo Davis. And you and I have mentioned that as well in terms of the importance of him kind of bringing in a new culture. But with that being implemented, Coach Sark was saying culture also just starts. It's not just leadership. It doesn't just come from me, but it's in the classroom, and it's holding yourself to a higher standard and holding yourself accountability. He said that first year when we went 5-7, we had one of the lowest, team GPAs in Texas history. And then the following year, that GPA and the record grew. And then whenever we got into the semifinal, that team GPA was almost at like a 3.8 or something like that. And then it's actually even grown since then, going back to the 2024 season. And so he said, it's not an accident that performance in the classroom, performance in life, and performance on the football field all correlate together. And whenever he's talking about life and he's talking about how football meshes with the way people live their life and the way you carry yourself outside of the football into the real world, God, it just gets me. I'm ready to run through a brick wall for you, Coach. Like, put me in. I'll put on the pads right now. Like, it goes back to me being a recruit. I would cut him off mid-sentence and say, I'm in. You don't need to sell me anymore. I'm already
Sold.
in. I'm
Sold.
Yeah. So I'm good.
Yeah. And it's what's also incredible to me is these are like, hour plus long interviews with him. And it's just like, it's done. And you're like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
I would like
Do I need
more,
to rewatch
please.
this? Yeah.
I would like more soup, please. Because it just goes by so fast. And It's fun just because of going through the Charlie Strong, Tom Herman years. Now having a coach I want to listen to talk about the program, about how he builds it, about just the culture and the GPA, how much that's grown. It's the signs of, yes, NIL will play effect, but recruiting's never been an issue at Texas as far as talent goes. It's been a culture issue. It's been a development issue. And listening to Sark talk about how he has corrected those issues. And that's why Texas finds themselves where they are. Because, yes, NIL is going to help. But again, recruiting rankings were never the issue for Texas. If Texas finished where the recruiting rankings were under Charlie Strong and Tom Herman, they probably wouldn't have gotten fired when they did. They would have lasted a lot longer, and Sarkisian probably wouldn't be here. But they were finishing top 10 in the recruiting rankings, top 5 in the recruiting rankings, and finishing unranked every season at 8-4, like another school that's in Texas. At Texas, that's not considered acceptable. And so they were shown the boot, and then Sarkisian came in, recruited even better in key positions like we've talked about, the not just recruiting every wide receiver and running back so you have a high class rating, but the linemen you're recruiting are not as big and talented, but having a little bit more widespread. But then also recruiting the character traits, making sure they're going to class, making sure they're making the good grades, the good decisions, and developing them, as a person as well as a football player.
No, I completely agree, Jake. And like you said, just listening to a head coach that you thoroughly enjoy listening to and that you actually gain insight from after he speaks and after he talks to the media, and you actually learn something almost every single time he talks, whether that be about football, whether that be about life, whether that be about the Texas Longhorn program, whether that be about recruiting, culture, what have you. I feel like I come away after every time Steve Sarkisian speaks, I come away with knowing a little bit more about the program, or I know a little bit more about football than I did before. I know a little bit more about the process of recruiting than I did before he was speaking. And so it's been nice to kind of see him in this offseason mood we don't really get to see Steve Sarkisian in the offseason very often. And so having this offseason where he has been more available to the media and he has been more transparent about the program has only made me appreciate where the program is today even more.
Yeah. And just seeing that hunger that he's not, I think he's happy with where the program is and what he's built, but he's not satisfied. And you see that hunger for a national title and wanting to win championships, not just a championship. And obviously you got to win one to win two. But he is still very focused on what they need to do and seems obsessive over, fixing things. And I know there's been a lot of talk about him really taking a hard look at the running game after this past season and trying to figure out how to improve it, not only, just from a players executing better standpoint, but also a scheme standpoint to help the players make it easier to execute. And it just feels like he's always evolving. It feels like the offense is always evolving and there's new wrinkles every year. You actually see changes, noticeable changes.
Yep.
That's not something we've seen and that is the good thing about your head coach, being the offensive coordinator of the team, is you don't have to worry about hiring a new OC and him being able to, be dynamic and take the same scheme, but, make small tweaks. You have continuity there. And then also the continuity of having a DC that's been the same guy, in PK. That was
another point of another topic of discussion was the coach retention and Coach Sarkisian has always been very transparent and very appreciative of acknowledging his staff and staying on and being one of the few that have had the defensive coordinator, head coach, and offensive coordinator, air quotes, combination stay at Texas for, I think it's now been 5 years with those two, which is the longest in the country.
Yeah. And I mean, they've had pretty good continuity across the board. I mean, they've lost some position coaches to the NFL, to, LSU in the case of Bo Davis. But that's a good problem to have. But when you can keep those coordinators, and PK seems pretty happy as the defensive coordinator, doesn't feel like he's going to be darting for a head coaching job anytime soon.
Gary Patterson.
PK, the most underappreciated coach at Tech. I feel like he's starting to get his roses after last season, but it took them having arguably the best defense we've seen at Texas in the modern era for him to get any respect from the fan base.
All right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Fun conversation. Love talking about Sark. I could talk about Sark. I could talk about this football program for an hour if you let me, but not going to do that today. Get you guys out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, but that is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. That is Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.